June 27th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the NinjaTrader 8 platform, 2000 tick chart. Look down at the descriptions below and you can see where I took my trades as well as where I thought I saw setups. Uh, Everything looked like it was just kind of in a trading range in the beginning part for about the first couple of hours after the market opened. Then there was a small, no, excuse me, not a small, but a slow and gradual rally. It was pretty strong, and it ended the day on another trading range, and it's kind of looks like it's selling off now, just a little bit. Overall, the total movement was about 55 points from the lows to the highs. This is the pre-market highs and lows I marked out in this small little trading range. Earlier on, prices did look like they were respecting this trading range. They mostly respected the top side, and they didn't really quite make it back down to the bottom. It just made higher lows all the way up. Then it kind of fell into this channel with some sub channels in between. So I took a total of 2 trades today, both were green, and there were a few setups that I saw that are actually pretty decent who have taken. Unfortunately, I did not take those. I will say that my last trade, which is kind of toward the end of the day, was a little more riskier. Fortunately, it worked out, but in hindsight, I think I should have skipped this last trade, which I will go into when I get there. Let's go ahead and zoom in. This is the pre-market, this gray area. I don't trade the pre-market. But in the pre-market, it looks like prices are doing what they kind of did yesterday. Yesterday, in the beginning, it looked like it might have been in the trading range, and then it just spent the rest of the day in this gigantic, wide trading range. So today, felt like it might potentially become the same thing. It might actually go just kind of dwell within the highs of the pre-market and the lows of the pre-market. First setup I saw after the market opened, now throughout the day and throughout price action, I saw a lot of second entries, but again, as with a lot of second entries, something just doesn't look quite right to make it high probability. So those type of setups, I try to avoid them just so I don't have to sit through an anxious trade. I used to take them pretty frequently when I was less experienced, and I'm still, I would consider not fully experienced, but getting better. So the first setup I saw was this new high of the day as well. Got a first entry long, second entry long, and when this bar formed, I thought there could be potentially a failed second entry long here. Now this failed second entry long, it is a good signal bar. It's at the top of the smaller trading range, and there was enough room to make it to the other side. But I was not sure if there'd be another move up, since this could be part of a larger ascending channel, which I saw from here. I just connected this low, this low. There was no third confirmation, and there was no quite second confirmation at the top, but I did have this as a slight overshoot, something a little bit lower like this. So I did have 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch with an overshoot early on, but I wasn't 100% sure. Later I did drag it up to here. So I left this alone. Price is topped, breaks out of this trading range, breaks out of this trend channel, but this channel itself, as I like to mention, I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't give it too much respect. So when it came down, I wasn't expecting a bounce necessarily, because I was looking for that third confirmation. Prices continue moving down, then they kind of pulled back up. It's all within this big gray trading range at this point. So let's see, we keep moving. The first entry here makes a new high at the reset count. Now I draw this range because I noticed there was some kind of support right here at the lower part of this blue line or this blue box. And I do notice there's a triple test at the top, so I'm pretty sure it's within this trading range at this point. I did see a new high, first entry long, second entry long right here, but this is a terrible signal bar, so it's not worth taking a trade on. Breaks out, I draw the shortened trend channel coming down. And I am noticing that it is so far playing the highs and the lows, so I'm wondering if it's going to make another move down. However, I did see a measured move here, one leg down, sideways, then a second move, so it technically has finished the measured move. So I'm curious at this point if it's actually going to pull up now, or is it going to break up and continue down to touch the bottom here, because it seemed like it was some kind of important support back at the past. It starts pulling back up. This is actually where I take my first trade. I saw this as a localized new low. I saw first entry short here, and I saw second entry short. Now this first entry short, depending on how you do the count, it could actually just consider it not as a first count, you just do visual first entry short. The way I counted it, I said it's first entry short, second entry short, potentially a second entry short failure. It would form above the EMA, and also it'd just be one leg up, pull back, and I would think it was another second leg up to maybe touch the top of this bigger trading range. So I actually got my order ready, and I watched what this candle did. It confirmed the failure on the second entry short, and I actually took a trade right here, one tick above. I had to actually go back in there and make these shown. So I took it. I waited for this candle, this trigger bar to form to confirm the failed second entry short. And when this bar actually started moving, I dropped my order where the original signal bar was, one tick above. So you can see this tiny little blue arrow. That's where I entered. And my stop was below this big green arrow. I was able to get out with a scalp right here. So it was my first trade, first green trade. Let's continue moving. And it's still respecting this trading range at this point. Looks like it's going to try to make it to the top. It almost gets there, then pulls back. I see this, and I actually tried to enter this trade here. There's actually a new high here, first entry long, second entry long hasn't been confirmed yet, but I was waiting and I watched. I like the way this candle closed. When this one formed, it actually opened right where this signal bar closed. So opened at the same spot. So I said, okay, it hasn't broken higher. Then it broke up higher, actually pulled back, and I dropped in my order one tick above. But by the time I got my order through, the prices were already above and never came back to pick me up. So this is actually a pretty decent setup that I liked. It's a good signal bar. It's bottom of this potential channel, and it's bottom of this potential trading range because I actually had a different trading range drawn here at one time. I later deleted it, but I liked the setup. It had enough room to get to the top, and unfortunately, the trade went without me, and I didn't want to chase it. The prices continue moving up. I'm no longer in the trade, unfortunately. It chops sideways. I draw this trend channel going up. I like this one touch, two touch, three touch, four touch. And on the top side, it looks like it's touching 3 times as well. So it looks like its prices are floating with this channel. It breaks out of this trading range formed by the pre-market highs and lows. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a fail breakout. So this is a new low, first entry short, second entry short, but this setup here is too congested. There's too many candles side by side and all about the same size, not giving you clear direction. So I left it alone. Let's continue moving. It breaks out of this channel, and now it has a breakout. So I wonder if it's going to come back up and test the highs. We made one attempt going up. It's back down. It's making a second attempt. And here it actually goes up and confirms this, tests the extreme of this recent high. Unfortunately, there was no clean setup that I liked. Technically, there's a new low here, first entry short here. And then this would be the second entry short, but it's too far now. Second entry short failure, potentially, but I didn't like the way it looked, and it felt like it was too late in the trade and the setup to try to chase this. Prices continue moving up. I don't see any good setups. I don't see any good setups. I mean, then I do see another potential setup here is a new high here. First entry long, second entry long. The second entry long hasn't been confirmed yet, but I do like this as a possible trade because it's a good signal bar. It's closed above the EMA. EMA is holding because you see this big red candle came down, but it wasn't able to break through and close. It broke through on the low, but it came right back up. And then on the second one, it opened low here. It came down, broke the low, but it actually closed very strong bullish candle. So this is, I thought, it was a pretty decent setup if it really confirms to be true. If I wanted to take this trade, I put it one tick above this guy right here. And there is enough room to get to the top of this for a quick scalp. One thing that I wasn't sure of is because this is a double top plus another top here, you technically can reset the count. So this actually could just be one big top and this be a first entry long as opposed to one top here, first entry long, makes it all like the same top and then second entry long. So I wasn't sure what I was seeing. And so I actually didn't take this trade. Turns out it would have worked out pretty well. So I now know, like, okay, in this type of situation where prices are kind of breaking out now of this trading range, prices are showing strength, it might have been worth it or okay in this case to count this as a new high, first entry long back to the same high, and then second entry long here. Then prices actually give you another opportunity. It sets up very similarly. So I see another setup the same way. This is another top here. So if you counted this as a double top, then you would reset the count. But you could also do previously this setup here. It looked like it was repeating. You could say it's a first entry long, and it just happens to be that this one came right to the same spot as second entry long, because this is also a very good signal bar. The one thing that I didn't like as much as this setup is this bar, red, never broke through the EMA. This one did. It actually closed below the EMA, and on top of that, this candle here, the signal bar, opened at the EMA and closed above the EMA. This one opened below the EMA and closed above the EMA. So this setup doesn't feel quite as strong as this one. However, there is enough room to scalp out for 1 point. So I just noted it for myself. This is a possible trade here, but I just didn't take it just because it didn't look as clean as this one. So if I put my entry 1 tick above, I would have got filled here, and then this one would have gotten me out. So both setups repeat would have worked out. Prices continue moving up. It kind of breaks out of this channel and creates a smaller channel going up. And at this point, it's kind of confusing because it's hard to fully capture where the price action is. This beige orange channel I didn't draw in until much later in the day. And it's just ultimately is kind of where it was. But you just see like these overlapping ascending channels, which are hard to fully capture all the price action. You just have all these piecemeal ones. But you do know it's going bullish. Comes back, it touches EMA. EMA again is holding, and I see another second entry long here. I see a double top, new high, first entry long right here, breaks above. Here, it potentially sets up a second entry long here. Actually got moved. This should actually be right here. So now it's setting up for second entry long, and this one actually makes your second entry long. And it formed above the EMA. Well, it broke below it and actually ended above the EMA. And unfortunately, this channel, this big orange one, hasn't been confirmed yet. So even if you did draw the support line, you only have 1 touch. So it's hard to really trust that a bounce is going to happen. Uh, if you did draw the tops first, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and potentially 4, you might have been able to draw the resistance first and then drag the support down here. And maybe you would have inferred that this is actually a bounce here. But I didn't see it in real time fast enough until much later. So unfortunately, there was a potential trade here, but I missed it. And I didn't even think this trade itself felt that strong because it is below the EMA at this point, unlike these guys, which closed above on the signal bar. The signal bar is below. So it was also 2 legs down, so it could bounce up, but it just didn't feel quite as clear and clean and strong as these 2 previous setups. So I left it alone. However, it gives you a confirmation higher low. So this is actually a worthwhile trade right here. This higher low confirmed the second entry long here, first entry long, second entry long. And if you weren't sure, that's fine. This higher low, however, would have given you double confidence. This higher low on this signal bar, this is technically where the higher low is made, but it's kind of a doji candle. But this one creates a double bottom and it strongly pushes up. So this higher low would have been worthwhile to take. But however, I know that the tops is right here. And I don't know that I would have taken it at the close of this candle. I probably would have dropped it 1 tick above the original signal bar, which had been this doji one here. And if I did, I wouldn't have gotten filled anyways. So it would have had to have been more of an aggressive entry. And I saw this in real time, but I didn't take it. But in hindsight, I'm thinking if I did take it, I don't think I would have gotten filled anyways. But that's okay. Some trades you just have to let go. And prices continue moving up. And right now it's just in rally mode because it's been in rally mode since about 8 o'clock Pacific Standard. And it's just kind of been grinding up. So there was a couple setups like this higher low and this potential second entry long. This one would have been another entry, but as I guess I said, a little bit more aggressive. It's not as clean as this one where both candles were above the EMA. Prices continue moving up. You only really get first entries here. You don't, and you certainly don't want to look for second entries to short because that'd be picking a top and very risky. Prices continue moving up. It kind of falls into this trading range, but look at the size of these candles and they're all side by side. So it just looks like it is still bullish, but the bulls seem to be losing power. There is a struggle happening because these candles are very tiny and they're side by side. So the bears are coming in and they are battling the bulls. Prices continue moving down. I draw this trading range because I have 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. And at the tops, however you want to see it, there are like at least 3 touches at the top. This grouping, and this grouping. I saw this but I didn't recognize it in real time because it's one leg down, consolidation pulls up, second leg down. So this is actually a second entry long visual because you have a new high, first entry long, potential second entry long, and you have a triple test or quadruple test, depending on how you did the count. And this trade, it looked like it's pretty good because this is a very good signal bar. This signal bar engulfed this previous bar, but also closed very bullish. And it would have been worth that trade because it actually has enough room to the highs. But unfortunately, I didn't see the visual fast enough to take this trade. And by the time I recognized it, I think it was already about right here. And I realized my mistake for not seeing this sooner. And prices continue moving. There's no real clear entries because you have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, and then you could reset the count. First entry short goes up. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but there's no signal bar and it's a failed breakout potentially. But I didn't want to tempt it. Prices continue moving it down. Okay, so this last trade, it was actually pretty risky. There's a new high here, first entry long above this guy once it broke above. And then there's a second entry right here when this candle broke above this one. So it's actually new high, comes all the way down. It's the first time made it higher than the previous. So it's first entry long, goes up, pulls back. This is second entry long. I also saw two legs down, one leg, potentially two legs, and I saw one leg up, pull back, and the potential second leg going up. So I actually jumped on this trade one tick above. So when this one formed, I actually put my entry one tick above here. So this is 44.22.25, and I put it at 44.22.50 just for a quick scalp. I will admit this trade is a little riskier because it is at the top of this trading range. There was already a failed breakout, but I also noticed that the lows were coming up higher than the previous lows. So these are making higher lows along the way. And this failed breakout, I was thinking there could be a potential another leg coming up to maybe test these highs, but I just wanted to get 1 point out of it. I was able to get 1 point and just able to skirt danger because it looked like if I put one more tick above, I may or may not have gotten filled. And definitely this big red candle would have stopped me out because my stop was below this candle here. And if you were even more risky, you could have put it below this triple test down here. And here you would have survived. But then here you would have gotten taken out. And prices just kind of chopped. This is the last few minutes of the day, and I don't want to take any more trades. Even taking this one so late in the day was a little risky. And then market just kind of went into the close. So overall, it was a pretty interesting day. I had to be very patient. Just like yesterday, there weren't too many setups that I could find, but there were a few setups I did find that unfortunately I wasn't able to jump on right away just for one reason or another. I didn't quite like the way it looked or my experience and how much I've seen these setups wasn't enough to convince me it was worthwhile taking. So hopefully that was helpful.